So, thank you. We're going to take one last time here. I want the panel to be able to say anything to you that they want to say about either the history of musical theater or the future of musical theater. But this is our way of encouraging you students to just continue to fall in love with this genre and become a part of it. So, Peter, start us off.
So I think that in terms of where musical theater is going, I think that with, as we talked a lot about this, with the melting pot of all these different influences, being TV, film, hip hop, like music performance, live music, band stuff, all kind of just melting in together. I think that we're just going to continue seeing an even bigger explosion of all those things. So the multimedia and the sort of like, this is kind of an oxymoron, but large intimacy of that theater's becoming. Like with Dear Evan Hansen, like the way things are sung, Pasek and Paul, like what they're doing with like speak singing and how they're able to blow that up into a full-size theater production, but keep it kind of this film-like intimacy of acting and singing. So I think that we're going to continue going in that direction, as well as seeing there's going to be a growth of hip-hop and rap-infused shows. I mean, with Lin-Manuel, what he's doing, he's got a new show on Broadway right now. What's it called? Love something. No. It's with the Roots. With the Roots. Yeah, I think I'm not sure exactly what it is, but I think it's more of like a musical review versus like an actual show. So we're going to continue seeing that. I think hip-hop's kind of like the thing right now, but it's going to be just cool to see all the other genres and things happening. Like, what's EDM's influence going to be on musical theater? I mean, there has to be some sort of influence when sections of music are just getting so big that things are just going to spill over and melt in. So it's just going to be really cool to see kind of the melting pot grow. And what we're seeing now, I think, is just the beginning of what intimacy in a large space can look like. Cool. I can switch out.
Yes, well.
Thank you. We had to switch over to an iPhone because our battery died. Justin.
I think just because I'm just kind of obsessed with staging and just how shows are being represented now. To kind of go with what Peter said, but with a level of staging, like I think we're going to continue seeing intimacy, but in a way where theaters can become more presentational, where like we bring the audience, like the Oklahoma Revival we were talking about, the audience was part of the bar, that was the stage. Hadestown in its own way was super, which is phenomenal, but it's also very presentational because there's a narrator. The ensemble works almost everything within the set. The band is on stage. I think we're going to start the Once on This Island revival, including the Broadway tour. Everybody creates, like, the gods on stage. Everybody's part of the storytelling constantly. It's not just like the one narrator. I think we're gonna start reverting back to an old style of theater where the ensemble is literally part of everything that happens on stage, and it creates an idea of theater is still presentational, but the idea of like storytelling and heart is still within the midst of that. Like, it's very open, nobody's trying to hide anything, but we create new staging that way, and it becomes really intimate to the audience because it makes the audience feel like we're not just watching like almost like a live movie. Like there's not another world past the footlights. Like we are in the midst of the footlights with these people, and I think that's a trend we're going to see in musical theater, especially with Hadestown winning that Tony, and it's like the ensemble does everything in that show, and the band's there, that we're going to continue seeing that in theater and musical theater kind of everywhere. So that's kind of my prediction, and I like that. I think that's super cool. We're going to start seeing just a new style of how we tell stories as a group of artists. It's not just a person anymore, it's everyone.
I think it's going to be really interesting to see how, with the advancements in technology, with how accessible things are, Peter and I probably both follow Jessica Vosk on Instagram, and people are posting Instagram stories, and people are posting Instagram TV things, and so there are performances that, and Disney Plus just launched. Can we say Disney in this video?
Oh, we can.
But if you even want to expand it to new TV shows that are only on certain platforms, the way that technology plays into art and plays into theater and entertainment, the way that it all plays together is just really interesting, and I think really shapes how art is viewed and how theater is viewed. And I think it's interesting because you can also see bridging the gap, because Lin-Manuel Miranda also he wrote a lot of the music or all of it for Moana, and so it's just interesting. There's kind of, like Tiffany was talking about, cross training. There's a lot of crossing of lines with theater artists and TV and movies, and like we have the live musicals, we have the live Little Mermaid that just happened, and so, which was interesting. But we had people like Queen Latifah in that, and we had Auli'i Cravalho from Moana as the Little Mermaid. And so, I don't know, I just think it's really interesting to see how theater will become more accessible. I still want people to go to live theater because I think it's completely different than seeing something on a screen.
Please.
That being said, I already talked about bootlegs. I love watching them on YouTube. They're out there, I don't know. But we live in Missouri, and so I can't go and see a Broadway show. So I think it'll be really interesting to see how theater will change to become more accessible for people.
Right.
Yeah.
Conrad.
Yeah. I think I'm thinking along the lines of just like things that I would say that are important to think about as you're studying, and I think at that part of your life that you all are at. And I think in all of this, the one thing is we're talking about trends and where things are going. This goes along with what Tiffany said too. Don't be afraid to learn solid technique, even if it's hard. Remember, it's opening you up to being able to be free and tell a story the way you want to. It might be hard now, but try to learn a solid technique that's going to allow you to be free and to tell the story with your voice, so you're not thinking so much about your voice all the time. But you gotta pay your dues. You gotta do it and be willing to embrace that, and not just be like, oh, it's changing, and I'm gonna like learn the stuff that people can teach you from coming years before. Things that are important to learn. And the other thing is, and I just forgot the other thing, but it was so important.
Well, when it comes back, you interrupt and you can say it again.
Yeah.
Because I was not going to say this, but I want to tag this off of what you were saying. There was a really fantastic meme that was going around that I tagged on my wall that I loved so much, and it was just a bunch of phrases, and it was like, person says, oh my gosh, that person has so much talent, how do they do it? And the person is like, I practice really hard. Oh my gosh, that note was incredible, the raw talent. No, I practice really hard. Oh, that's incredible, I could never sing like them. I practice really hard. That is the truth. That is the truth. Behind every single one of these artists that we go, wow, I love what Ramin Carolyn is doing. I love what Jessica Mueller's doing. I love what Kelly O'Hara is doing. They get their butts in the practice room and they work it out. That's what's most important, because you can take someone, gosh, even look at my journey. So like 2 years ago, same thing that you said, Mike. 2 years ago, I played a role that I'm playing again. I understudied a role that I'm playing now. And the way that I sung that role 2 years ago is very different than the way I'm singing it now, because they want a different sound. They want more belty. They don't want legit soprano. But if I hadn't worked over the past 2 years, I wouldn't have the notes that I have now, and I'm in my 30s. So practice.
Yeah.
But on that note, so like what Conrad was saying, what are things that you can take away now? Give yourself the permission to create. Try things, experiment with things. Don't go, oh, I can't make that sound. Yeah, try it, try it. Just know that they're two muscles. They're very strong in your vocal folds, whether you're speaking or singing things. You're not going to try one thing and suddenly not be able to make any noise. If you scream for 5 hours straight, you're going to have problems. But, give yourself the freedom to create and try things. And secondly, listen and watch and ingest all of the art from different places that you can, and analyze your biases, because they'll change over time, and you may listen to something and go, oh, I don't like that. Great. Why? Why don't you like it? Do you not like it because you have a preconceived idea of what is right about that art, or you just don't like it as a person? That's okay. You don't have to like it. You're not going to like everything, but at least have big ears, have big eyes, watch a lot of things, listen to a lot of things, expose yourself, not that way, but expose yourself, to a number of different things so that you can ingest those things and It makes you
And
a bit,
Did you think of your
it
get
makes
Conrad?
you a better artist. It makes you a better artist when you diversify your own listening set, so you're not caught in just one thing. Appreciate all of those things
Yeah.
and enjoy all of those things. So.
I did remember the other thing I was gonna say, and it goes along with what Justin said about how the ensemble is starting to really inform the way things are being performed. This is something that hasn't changed, but should be really exciting to all of us. Is remember the value that you have as an ensemble member. So I know, however many people are in your class, not all of you are going to get cast as the lead role in whatever play you're doing. But I think one of the huge things that that I feel like we can forget throughout our lives is what we bring to an ensemble and how you can tell the story. If the ensemble is good, the story just comes alive, and if it's not, it's difficult. So that should be exciting with what Justin said, which I think is a really accurate point, that the ensemble is starting to tell the story more. In your education now, I would challenge you to be that ensemble member that is telling a clear story and being in the moment every single moment of the shows that you're in.
You see why I love these people? This has been great. I am so appreciative to every one of you for being involved in this. And students, I know you appreciate it as well. I look forward to seeing your papers. I am going to say, by way of disclaimer, the views of Kristen Abels concerning watching bootlegged films does not necessarily represent the view of your professor or North Greenville University. Yeah, I think I covered that. Now, beyond that, thanks guys, and I'll get more information to you. But I look forward to reading your papers, and I look forward to seeing your responses to this stimulating conversation. Thank you.
Yay.